And welcome back to AOA, Agriculture of America, brought to you by Cenex Premium Diesel and Premium Lubricants. Trust your local experts at Cenex. Visit your nearest location or go to Cenex.com for more. Joining us now here at the NAFB convention in Kansas City. We talk to him regularly. It's nice to see him in person. U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Halstrom. Dan, how are you? It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. Let's start with the September meat export numbers. I know those just came out here a little over a week ago. And looking through things, looks like pork is on pace for an annual record. Let's start there.
Yeah, pork is continuing the trends from earlier in the year. Broad-based growth. Of course, you've got Mexico leading the way, but and there's a couple other stories, though, in September that we should hit on. Mexico had a solid month, but you had a really good month with Japan on the pork side. And you had some of these smaller regions, Central America, Colombia and South America, the ASEAN-Oceania region in particular, Australia on boneless ham. So really, it just re-emphasizes those trends we saw earlier in the year with broad-based growth from a lot of different regions, and it's translating into record performance for the year.
What about on the beef side? I know it's been an interesting year on the beef side. Any changes for the September month numbers?
Yeah, beef had a large month, up, if I believe, 5-6% year on year, and we continue to see this trend on beef where it's overachieving where we thought we would be a year ago. And we're going to end up the year really close to the same volume probably as a year ago, and value is going to be up 5 or 6%. So on the beef side, we're looking at the second largest export year ever, which a year ago we were not estimating that. So this is some good news here. Also led by several key markets. Mexico in particular on beef is doing well. And then, of course, you have a little bit of a rebound going on in Asia as well on the food service side.
And that's something we've been talking about for several months now, you and I have here on the show, is that, and I know you've been over in Asia quite a bit this year, a lot of work there as food service is rebounding finally here post-COVID. That's been the big thing.
That's exactly right. And we still have some weakness economically in Asia, especially with China. But we're starting to see the tourism boom in Japan. Japan's already reestablished their record pace. And Korea, not quite a record, but close. We think by the end of the year, they will be back to record pace on tourism. So this is helping certain segments of the food service business rebound, which we really needed.
On the lamb side, I noticed September lamb exports lowest of 2024. Are we starting to develop a trend there? What's going on with lamb?
No, I think lamb's a little, because the volumes are smaller, month to month, it's a little bit over or understated. I see some really good things going on with lamb, especially in Mexico. We've seen several new, especially in the shoulder area, lamb shoulders, breast meat, even some lamb loin business down there. So yeah, I think there's good things going on lamb and in Mexico and in Caribbean as well.
We're talking with Dan Halstrom, President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Dan, let's think about looking ahead here. We're obviously near the end of 2024, looking ahead to 2025. What are some of your thoughts here, just broadly to start, looking at what meat exports could be looking like here as we get into a new year ahead?
Yeah, I think on the pork side, we're optimistic. I think we're going to be a new record value and volume this year, and there's no reason to think it won't be the same thing next year if trend lines continue. There's a lot of good trends out there, whether it's Latin America or Asia. So yeah, I think pork is in good shape. A little bit will depend on the level of production, but it'll be a new record. On the beef side, it's a little more mixed, as you can imagine, because one question is, when will we see more significant herd rebuild with the retention of heifers? But even with that, we're estimating on the beef side, we could be down a little bit on volume, but we think value is going to be pretty steady. So still a very big year on beef exports, led by the markets I mentioned, Latin America, as well as, I hope, a more significant rebound in Japan and Korea.
What about opportunities for maybe some new markets or markets you guys have been working on? And I will add a part two to that question. I know there's been a lot of talk about potential new tariffs with the incoming Trump administration. What could that mean for export business for the meat sector? Your thoughts there, Dan?
Well, yeah, let's start with the new areas. You look at Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, they stand out as really untapped areas of opportunity. You've got markets like the Philippines as well that on pork especially had a very high supply ability from EU, and maybe we should get more of that share as well. And you look at places like Colombia and Chile, further expansion there. I think that will continue. So there's a lot of opportunity. About the tariff question, I look at what happened in the first Trump administration. There was a lot of good things. You had the USMCA renegotiation, NAFTA 2.0 that now became USMCA. That was the Trump administration's deal. Japan-U.S. ag agreement. We had very ridiculously unfavorable tariffs that were normalized. And we had the China Phase 1 deal, which resulted in us going from 200 or 300 million a year for beef exports to over 2 billion. Very significant.
Yeah.
So I got to think, since they own these agreements, I got to think. I'm not saying it won't be choppy. The waters will be choppy.
Sure.
But I think in the end, support of the export markets, especially the USMCA, I think that will prevail, because we have a USMCA. That's part of the reason the framework is there.
Yeah.
If you have a disagreement about an issue, i.e., corn.
Exactly.
This provides you a mechanism in which to work it out.
Absolutely. Final thoughts before we wrap it up here? Anything you want to reiterate to producers this month?
I just think that one of the things that we're really focused on is in these markets to help tell our story is getting more producer involvement. We take groups over periodically, and we're going to continue to do that, because the markets are really hungry. You can't bring everyone to the U.S. to see it, so taking producers over to see these larger groups is very effective, and we'll continue to do that, because there's no better way to tell our story than to have U.S. producers involved.
Absolutely. Folks can learn more. Go online, usmef.org for more. Dan Halstrom, U.S. Meat Export Federation. Good to see you, Dan. I'm sure we'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, Jesse.